don't even know where you're sitting at.
I can't accept the loss, I'm hard-headed. There's a little bit of madness to my method. Many falling off that fine line that I'm treading. I risk anything to be great, and I'm not letting nobody rob me of my victory. Number one, that's what I'm meant to be. When by any means, only thing that makes sense to me, I can make nice or make history. I got that dog in me, yeah, turn me up. Big energy, got the crowd going nuts. I got that dog in me, yeah, ante up. I take on anyone, I don't need a one-on-one. Got that dog.
Hit the like, hit subscribe, come on in.
You guys wanted. What kind of went wrong there in that first quarter?
I think we just got punched in the mouth early. We need to come out with intensity first. We shouldn't be in a game where we have to fight back as early as we had to. So I think just our mindset going into the game need to be fixed.
How do you change that? Is it just a matter of turning on a switch, or is it becoming more focused?
Yeah, more focused. Preparing earlier, making sure we all got our routines early so our bodies and minds are ready for the game.
You personally got it going a little bit in that fourth quarter, finished with 16. How'd you feel out there?
I mean, you know, like I was saying in the past days, just the more reps, the slower the game gets for me. I think just letting the game come to me just kind of helped me out. And like you were saying, just start knocking down shots.
Do you notice that from game to game it's slowing down? Is it?
Yeah, of course. The more games I play, not the easier it gets, but the more I'm starting to understand the pace of the game, and then at this level.
What was something that you figured out today that maybe kind of clicked?
Just ball movement, moving the ball more, being aggressive, trying to get the defenders to foul, and we can't really focus on the refs as much. We shouldn't depend on the refs to dictate the game.
What's the mindset going into Game 5? Obviously, it's an extended tournament. Everybody's kind of wary, but you still got to come ready to go.
Just win. We definitely want to leave here knowing that we got the win and that we played our best.
Jam, obviously not the game you wanted. What went wrong there that you saw?
Yeah, I think Summer League is a really unique experience for young athletes to figure out how to play professional basketball. And today was a really clear example of the guys not really figuring out how to prepare themselves to play game after game. And 4 games into a longer tournament, you could tell they just didn't have the preparation. And that's the learning curve. And that's where I think everything you do is about learning. And so the message to the team was that we need to figure that out. And in a year or two from now, remember this game and remember why you didn't perform at the level you needed to. Obviously getting hit the way we got hit at the beginning of the game, it was over pretty quickly. But I thought they did sort of persevere through that. They kept on fighting. They kept trying some new things, and I commend them for that for sure.
Turnovers obviously was the story in that first quarter. It seemed a little bit contagious. Why does that happen, and how is it so tough to stop when it does start to roll like that?
I definitely give credit to Miami. I think their aggressiveness, their defense was really high level, probably the best we've seen in terms of physicality and putting us on our heels. Obviously, we're trying to do the reverse to them, but I think that created a lot of the turnovers, and I think we didn't respond early enough with enough physicality. So when we kind of get bumped off the ball, it turns into turnovers, it turns over wanting fouls, as opposed to us sort of dominating the ball and getting to the rim and protecting it more.
They came in shooting the ball from 3 at a great rate, 47% throughout the whole tournament. They got some great looks, made them. What's key to kind of stopping that? I mean,
yeah, an elite three-point shooting team. I think we had some strategy in terms of what it could look like to sort of stop that three-point barrage. Their players shot the ball really well, credit to them. And I think for us, again, it's a learning curve. I think Summer League really is, and listen, these young players are trying to find the balance of what it is to play at an NBA level and do it consistently. And I thought they just couldn't quite find that, especially early in the game. That second half, we played them even for the most part, but the first half was just too much of a deficit.
Jacoby Walter at 16, kind of got fired a little bit there in the fourth quarter. Just assess how he played today.
Yeah, I think for Jacoby, a few moments where you saw the sort of specialness of him, his ability to sort of navigate the paint, find his way into space. I think as you watch him over these first 4 games, he can find the empty space. And an NBA floor, that's a really elite skill, to find where the opening is and get his body there and either lift up for a shot or draw a foul.
Last one more on Sunday. The motivation, how do you sort of garner that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's another game. It's motivation enough. I think anytime you get to play professional basketball, it's an honor, it's a privilege, and I think that should be motivation enough. I think for these young guys, the real reality is everyone's always watching, and there's always a scout who's seen what that player can do, and we'll give everyone an opportunity to play and sort of showcase their skills, and I think we stay together as a team. That's what this thing's about. You know, win or lose, we're together as a team, and I think we saw some solidness in that throughout this entire tournament.
All right. That was not what anybody had in mind when we were talking about closing out Summer League. I understand Grady is missing, but this was an inexcusable performance, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. It's Summer League, of course. You don't want to see a team on the verge of potentially breaking a summer league loss record. You don't want to be watching this ugly brand of basketball. This is what happens when one team feels like they have something to play for and is already better than you, and you're down man, and then you're down another guy, and then the other team has like nothing to play for. You know what I mean? Because the Miami Heat had something to play for. They had professional pride. They had the playoffs. There were 5 teams going into tonight, I believe, that were undefeated. They had a point differential battle, but they didn't know what was going to happen in the other games. And so clearly the message in the Miami Heat locker room was, let's go get these MFing rings. Let's get these rings and let's go out and pound this team into oblivion. Let's punch them and see if they are willing to punch back. And the Toronto Raptors just said, we're going to score 5 points, 7 points. I mean, gosh, at one point, it looked so bad. I was like, I don't know if the Raptors are going to score in the first quarter. If you missed this one, congratulations. You missed a really ugly game, but you also missed something really beautiful, and that was Ulrich Chomche and Jacoby Walter. And honestly, let's be real. If Jameson Battle, no offense to Jameson Battle, who's a fine young player, and I hope that he does well, but we are Raptor fans, and we are betting on the future. We are card counters. We are roulette players. I don't know what we are, but we are hoping for one of these young kids, these 18, 19-year-old kids, to show that they belong. I cannot tell you conclusively that either of these players showed you that they are NBA players right now, but both of them throughout the past 4 games have flashed incredible upside. And today, I'm going to do a little miniature version of what I want to do on Sunday, which is I want to take a look at some plays, because it does not help that Summer League is being covered by the stupidest people on planet Earth. They are talking about everything but basketball. They talked about rap albums. They talked about Bronny James. They talked about they talk about everything except for what is happening on the basketball court. And it's infuriating to listen to this crap. And you got to just put it on mute. But you hope that there was somebody there to be like, wow, that was a really great pass. Wow, that was a really great block. Great recovery. Terrible pass. Like, you just want some analysis. My God, I understand it's a blowout, but that doesn't mean. And I mean, again, from an empathy standpoint, a lot of these guys are not going to play in the NBA. And so if one of them does something really great, don't ruin it by just not talking about it. That to me feels very wrong. Luckily, I was there with my Google Pixel, taking images of my phone and snapshotting little things that stuck out to me. Jacoby Walter, I think his overall fluidity and ease of comfort getting into his shot, the speed at which it is getting off his hand clean, how much a defender is disrupting him. Again, we will see what this looks like against Lou Dortz. We'll see what this looks like against the Lou Dortz of this world and the Alex Carusos of this world. But against the Josh Christophers of this world, it looks okay. He looked good. He looked good. And I like the fact that he kept fighting. Very ugly moment for Jamal Shed, getting ejected for a reason that nobody wants to get ejected. Let's take a look at the game real quick, and then we will talk about Ulrich Chomche, and I will give you my wax poetic, my absolute upside, my beautiful game analysis of Ulrich Chomche. First of all, please hit like on this video. It is currently 2:35 in the morning, and it is ridiculous, and I apologize for being super late with this. I ended up with allergies. If you caught my last video on Bronny James, you could hear me sniffling. You know, I found that kind of ironic that I've worked so hard to get rid of the ums in my speech, and yet every 5 to 6 seconds or every 2 minutes there was that happening. That's because I have cat allergies, and unfortunately, unfortunately, I live with a cat because my girlfriend has a cat, and sometimes I forget to wash my hands if I touch him, and there goes the allergies. And so I ended up having to watch the game with a lot of allergies. So yeah, and allergy medicines make you sleepy. So there you go. I ended up passing out, and then I woke up at 12:45 like, "Oh shoot, I got to make a live." So here we are at 2:36. If you appreciate the grind, please hit subscribe and like. And if you really appreciate the grind and feel inclined to do so, please don't hold back. Support the community with a super chat or an e-transfer or an Amazon wish list thing or whatever. All right, let's get to this. So overall, Ochai Abaji. It sticks out like a sore thumb, doesn't it? 2 points, 17 minutes, 0 for 5, 2 for 4 from the free throw line. Ochai Agbaji is seriously like flashing. I don't know if he's an NBA player potential right now. And it is freaky to watch. I appreciate that he took shots. It's scary how ineffective he is driving against this level of competition, because if you can't drive against this competition, you can't drive in this paint, you're definitely not driving against set defenses and key high rotation players next year. So this to me is a lack of growth in his game. He looks worse than the player I saw 2 years ago. And that's very scary to me because I've never heard of anything about Ochai being not a hard worker or anything of that sort. But at this point, we are officially in the life support era of Ochai Agbaji's NBA prospects and NBA career. Because I'll tell you right now, NBA front offices are not overly patient with guys who are older prospects. He is already an older prospect. There's not a 21-year-old where it's like, oh, maybe he'll grow and maybe he'll mature. It is a very scary outcome. Not want to say really scary, because what did you really give up to get him, right? You gave up a late first round pick in a somewhat weak draft. You got Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk is bomb. He's amazing. He probably worth that. I don't know if he's worth that first round pick by himself. But when you consider what you gave up to get Jakob Poeltl, and if that's the bar, then you got a steal and a half for Kelly Olynyk. If Ochai Agbaji can even walk and dribble at the same time, you got a steal. But I do understand where people are like, maybe Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski would have been better. But how many young players are going to have, right? We got 4 rookies, and 2 of them look phenomenal. 1 of them got hurt. And honestly, the 4th one looks pretty good too. So I cannot imagine complaining about this rookie class, but I can imagine complaining about Ochai Agbaji. I won't complain too much though, because again, my expectations of him were not super high. It was a really nice thing to root for. It sounds good. It's an ex-lottery pick. Masai Ujiri knows his family. Masai Ujiri believes in him. Good kid. It sounds good. It sounds a little bit like the Jordan Noir thing, right? Just younger. It sounds also good because the Raptors desperately need a 3-and-D wing to work out for them. And Ochai Agbaji could have been that player. I think right now, if I'm the Raptors and I'm planning out the next year, Davion Mitchell and Jacoby Walter and Grady Dick are all ahead of Ochai, right? Now, you just lost Gary Trent. He's a minimum contract player. So you lost him for jack shit, and he signed for absolute nothing. And that was partially to clear the way for guys like Grady and Ochai. And frankly, I saw a lot more from Grady this summer league than I saw from Ochai. And it was interesting because I was listening to the Kansas coach last year talking about Grady and Ochai linking up in Toronto. And he mentioned, oh, I'm really happy for Ochai, but I hope he doesn't take away from our other guy. And I thought that was very interesting because Ochai won a national championship at Kansas and Grady did not. So I thought that was interesting that a person who coached these guys, coached Ochai for years, didn't want him to get in the way of Grady. So that to me kind of settled in my mind where Ochai was as a prospect, according to the guy who coached him for so many years. Anyways, I am still rooting for Ochai. It would be a really big thing if he worked out. This game was not it. He looked horrible, unplayable, terrible. Get in the gym, Ochai Agbaji. You got to be better than this. Brandon Carlson. Interesting, right? Got to the line a lot, right? 1 for 3 from 3. I like the one that he took. It was nice. It's perfectly fine. Jamal Shed, tough game, right? 11 minutes. Not the greatest at setting everything. And oh my God, we got to talk about DJ Carton as well. A lot of people are going to say DJ Carton's amazing because, the defense, the point of attack defense and everything that he's doing. But man, this guy is not a guard. Like, I'm sorry. It's like a power forward in a guard's body in terms of some of his ball skills. He's not a guard. I'm telling you, as a guard, someone who played guard, I understand what a guard is supposed to be able to do. I understand simple reads. He misses everything. How many times did he miss the open man? How many times did he not make the obvious pass? It's crazy to me that this guy, there's not a lot to be inspired about from DJ Carton's performance. I'm sorry. Like, this is the NBA, man. You're an undersized guard who does not have some sort of elite shooting potential here. I'm sorry. Like, I understand the hypothetical, and if you take the next step, maybe it works out. Jeff Doughton's a better player than him. Come on, let's be real. Javon Freeman Liberty, very tough night. 2 for 10. It seems to be a recurring theme. Everyone had a pretty tough night. There wasn't anyone who just popped off and had, if you're just looking at the box score, you're like, Jameson Battle and Jacoby Walter, but Jacoby Walter turned it on late. The game was kind of over. For most of the game, he struggled as well, right? Don't worry, we get into the Ulrich Chomche of it all. Dylan Disu, a player that, I thought had some interesting moments. He had one particularly interesting moment. Let me see. There was a block. This was in the third quarter or the fourth quarter, early fourth or late third. He had this block, which he somehow chased and he turned it back out of bounds. And then he goes down the other way. It was interesting for a 6'9" guy who's 23 years old. Flashed a little bit of potential. I'm not sure he gets a camp invite, but it was interesting. Tyler Perry, I don't see anything there. Joseph Girard, I don't see anything there. Right? Quincy Guerrier, I don't see anything there. If any of these guys end up sticking around, it'll be G League. It's not going to be NBA. Okay. So now we got to talk about the two guys that we're here to talk about, and then we'll give you a bit of a roundup of Summer League in general. I can talk about some players that I really liked in Summer League this year, specifically Reed Shepherd. I really want to talk about Reed because, I mean, I've just been so blown away. We can obviously talk about Kel'el Ware and guys like this as well, and just Summer League in general. But I want to talk about Jacoby and Ulrich Chomche. So I saw a SP saying Ochai can be another expiring. Well, he is definitely expiring. Can you give a Jacoby Walter comp? Well, I did on draft night, and I believe I said Tim Hardaway Jr., right? That was one of the two players. I also said somebody else, and now I'm forgetting the name of that player. His face is on my mind, but because I am a little bit sleepy, his name is escaping me. He played for New York. Who did I say? Anyways, I also mentioned that he has this like very, very sliver small hope of being a poor man's Devin Booker. I've seen a little bit of evidence towards that, right? I've also seen moments where he looks like a second round pick. I'm not really sure how I feel about Jacoby Walter, other than I'm not writing off his ability to be an NBA starter. Based on what I've seen so far in 4 games from Jacoby Walter, I'll say he's gone from looking like a borderline second round pick, going in and out disinterested, to having 2-3 minute stretches or 1 or 2 plays every single game where he looks like every bit like the top 5 type of pick that he was being projected as a year ago. So which way will he go will ultimately come down to him. What I can tell you is it will not be a physical limitation that stops him from achieving his end result. His end result will be whatever he wants it to be. And that's probably a good thing. You don't want to get into a point where, a guy comes into your system and oh, wow, the end result will be the work of the shooting coach or the strength and conditioning team or some sort of psychological problems. No, he seems like a perfectly reasonable kid. He has great two-way potential, great wingspan. He finishes okay. He's just not very strong right now. He will have to go through the strength and conditioning program that Grady did as well, but he is quicker than Grady. He has that quick burst on the first step, and that will continue to advance as he gets better. I think the in-between game could be there with him, and that would be very interesting, right? If he can get a little bit better with the in-between game, right? Someone's saying he plays like Arizona State James Harden. I very much disagree with that. Vivek, I apologize if I'm saying that not correctly. Quentin Grimes, I don't know. I don't think so. Anab Udine saying, how come Jonathan Mobo did not play? Well, he took a very nasty fall. If y'all remember in game 2, he went up for, I think it was a rebound, an offensive rebound, and Ulrich Chomche just sort of barreled into him inadvertently, and he got taken out. Raps in 6. Do you think Miami sniped us with Kel'el Ware? So I am a generational Kel'el Ware hater. I did not like Kel'el Ware in the draft cycle, and I'm acknowledging I could be wrong. I didn't see anything today that I didn't think he was capable of. It will be a very long road to see what he becomes. I'm happy for him, for his family, that he ended up in Miami. It's a really tough place to play when you're soft. So hopefully he adjusts very quick. I think sometimes he's been very passive. Maybe it's because he's so talented that at the previous level, he didn't feel like he needed to dial it up. Maybe at the NBA level, he will dial it up. If he does dial it up, in my opinion, he's a better player than Alex Sarr. But again, I don't have to wonder about motor with certain guys. I do worry about motor with him. The question was never the talent or the physicality or sorry, the physical gifts. That was all evident. 7 foot tall, can shoot threes, can run the court. Great, right? I just I don't trust it. I don't trust it. And you know what? I'm going to say something towards the end of this live that might make your ears burn or maybe make your eyes pop, but I will say it, and it is how high I am on Ulrich Chomche. So what I will tell you is after 4 more games of evaluation, because let's be real, just because the draft happened on June 26th or 25th or whatever it happened on, does not mean that it happened at some God-given time. And do you know what I mean? Like that's not the date that these prospects, that's just the date that they were judged that day. But if the draft happened on July 26th, I guarantee you it doesn't look the same anymore. I promise you. I promise you that there are certain players who would go higher based on how they played in the summer league because we haven't seen these guys play up against professional competition. A lot of them have played pro league overseas, which is professional over there. We've seen a lot of them. A lot of them were private workouts. A lot of them were scrimmages. Some of them worked out at the pro days. But with 4 games and now a fifth on the way this weekend, will we not have a completely renewed appreciation for Reed Shepherd? Would the rest of the league get as high on Reed as the Rockets were on Reed? Allegedly, he was number 1 on their board. Would the rest of the league get a little bit higher on Tijan Salon after seeing how badly Alex Sarr has struggled as the more NBA-ready prospect? Obviously, there are certain guys with the information of now hindsight, Deron Holmes, Devin Carter, they probably slip a lot because they're injured. So what I will do is I will tell you where I think these players would go if we had the draft a month later, which is to say we canceled 2026. This entire summer league is, I mean, it still happens, but it's washed. We give all these teams back, and now the Raptors are back in the draft. They have the 19th pick. The Heat are back. They have the 15th pick. The Lakers are back. They have the 17th pick, etc. And the Raptors have all the same picks. I just want to make a case for where these guys would go based on what I've seen now and what I think they've shown in Summer League. Okay. So overall, from a team perspective, this game is just is bad, right? It is very bad. Also, can y'all help me with something? I am desperately trying to stop saying it's a nasty habit. For someone who speaks on camera, it's not something that I want to be doing. So, could you let me know if I inadvertently say it? Can you just write in the chat? Please don't troll me. I'm very paranoid about this. I've actually been asking my girlfriend, please don't say around me because I'm trying to break the habit. And now I'm realizing how many people say all the time. My girlfriend was listening to Friends the other day and I heard Ross and Rachel talking about something and they said 16 times. They're professional actors. So I was like, wow, this is just a normal way that people speak. Personally, I hate it. I don't like when I'm listening to myself say and because I'm a little bit on the spectrum, naturally I'm going to go very extreme with this and completely eradicate it from my vernacular. So I'm just trying to get better at speaking, man. As someone who is speaking constantly, I was on the panel today. I was on the panel on Tuesday. I'm probably going to be on the panel again on Tuesday. It seems like this microphone is a really big part of my bread and butter in terms of growing this community, making content, etc. Obviously, I want to remove a major barrier to that. Also, I mean, pen dance. Like I run a film festival. I often end up on stage talking and I'm awkward as hell. So I'm just trying to get better. So if y'all can help me, that would be really, really appreciated. All right. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. This is new. Cool. So we just get his shot chart. That's pretty cool. So that's all right. This is interesting. Okay. Credit to NBA.com. Right. I'm used to ESPN and I thought I was on ESPN. So that makes sense. Okay. This is Brandon Carlson's shot chart. DJ Carton shot chart. Let's check. We got Ulrich Chomche. Where you at? Ochai Abaji, just a bunch of reds. Took all his threes from that right corner. So again, he is doing what he's being asked to do. That's basically going to be his role in the NBA next year is to be a corner spacer. If he can just hit those shots, that would go a very long way. Also, another guy who took a corner three. So he goes, I think 1 for 2 from 3. I don't think he's taken 3. Has he? So he missed his only 3, but it looked all right. It looked all right. I wasn't I didn't get uncomfortable with Ulrich Chomche taking a three. I think that was perfectly fine. Jamal Shed. Okay. So do we have a team stats here? Come on, man. Where are we at? Summary, box score, game chart, play by play. Where are the team stats? NBA.com. Does it even matter? Okay, let's move off of this. Hang on. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about Ulrich Chomche. Take a look at this play. Okay. I need you to watch where Ulrich Chomche starts this play. He's at the top of the screen. You see him as that bullet blitzing past, right? I'm gonna play it out. Don't worry, but just know what you're watching for, because again, basketball is a very complicated sport. There's a lot of movement, a lot of changing ends very quickly, and it's very easy to have a player doing something off the ball and we're not focusing on it because we have our eyes on the ball. So watch Ulrich Chomche at the top of your screen off the ball. See how quickly this guy runs. Now tell me, if number 44 was Scotty Barnes, is that an alley-oop? Look at this moment. I've frozen it on the screen. He found the opportunity. He's not an idiot. He can easily dunk this basketball if he was given the basketball. Unfortunately, he's playing with a lot of not really great or willing playmakers, right? So this, to me, is the future of what this guy can be. He has the size. He sees the angle. This is soccer. This is 100%. All his soccer stuff is coming. I'm telling you. Look, I played basketball. I never played soccer. I mentioned this before. I remember playing soccer once, and it wasn't like a very large field where my conditioning at the time as a soccer player or some of my deficiencies as understanding soccer would have shown up a lot. And I made this beautiful play. And the guy I was playing with, he said, "Are you sure you don't play soccer?" And I was like, "That was purely basketball, bro. Like in my mind, that was you backdoor, and I just hit you an alley oop." So that's boom, right? Now, take a look at this. This was one of my favorite plays. I love it for so many reasons. There's 100 things that he did today that were super cool. There was that massive putback. There was the great block. There's so many things, but this is one of my favorite plays, absolutely, in Raptors Summer League history. Watch this. And again, I don't think the commentators brought this up. I don't hear this. I didn't hear it being talked about. I was the person who posted it on Twitter. It's got like 250 likes. But I need people to realize this is an 18-year-old playing professional basketball. Please understand. 18-year-old raw kid, 57th overall pick, playing professional basketball. Watch what he does. Boom. Grabs it. Looks up. Does not see the obvious. And he does this. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? The man just pulled a Scotty Barnes. And Scotty is one of the best passers in the NBA. Scotty would have made this pass exactly this way. I watched Scotty Barnes for a very long time. This is 100% a pass that Scotty made in high school hundreds of times. And to have this kid doing this, because I'll tell you right now, the average big does not make this pass, does not have the courage to make this pass, does not know to make a bounce pass, gets this pass picked off. There was a turnover today where it was a great pass, very good idea. He had the right idea, but it was a turnover. Look at this. He leads him perfectly. This is not the first time. This is not a one-off. This is a 7-foot kid leading a fast break like he's Magic fucking Johnson. Okay, just do me a favor, okay? Just look at 22 right now and put Scotty Barnes' head on him and tell me what Scotty would have done differently. Would he have run faster? Nope. Would he have stopped? Now, the other part of this that is super crazy to me, is that he knew to stop. Watch this. Watch it again. Watch where he slows down. Because this is the crazy thing. Bigs don't know how to do this. I've played with a lot of bigs. I've watched a lot of bigs play my whole life. I've watched basketball for 26 years now, 27 years, 28 years. Well, I've been watching basketball for 30 plus years now, which is a crazy thing to say. And I like to avoid saying it because it makes me sound like I'm 500 years old. But I have been watching basketball for at least 30 years now. I don't see a lot of bigs doing this. I saw some bigs do this. Yes, I saw Chris Webber do this. I have seen Nikola Jokic do this. I have seen Wemby do this. I've seen Al Horford do this. I've seen Joakim Noah do this. I never saw Kem Birch do this. Well, maybe Kem Birch could have done this, maybe in high school or something. It's not common. Now, watch the stop. I'm going to play it out. Just watch where he slows down and see how him slowing down changes the angle of the pass and where the pass is going, manipulating the defense. Because this is, to me, just wild shit. He's doing this on instinct. This is not a basketball thing. We saw a moving screen from him. Honestly, it was a moving screen. I think it was on a Jacoby Walter drive. I can't remember exactly, but my recall on this is poor because maybe I'm just sleepy. But that play showed you what a experienced basketball player would have never done, what he did on that play. Also worth noting that an experienced basketball player would not have forced him to catch the offensive foul because they would have waited for the screen. They would have seen the screen. So he's ahead of his teammates right now. I venture to think he might be the best passer on your team right now, just in terms of court vision, in terms of how he's mapping the court and his angle and sight lines, which is crazy because I did not know this was one of his strengths coming into this. I thought he was a run, jump, defense, dunk basketball player. I didn't see this passing in his tape. I don't know what the hell I was watching. I feel like an absolute idiot because this is absolutely insane. Raps and 6 saying, Penn, I'm going to need more Raps propaganda on the panel. You will not get Raps propaganda because I'm not a propagandist. However, if Scotty Barnes' name ever comes up in a derogatory sense on the panel, I will damn near lose my mind and probably lose a lot of people on it. People scoff at our team too much. I don't know if you've been following the panel Raps and 6, but some shit happened. Maybe not the greatest moment for Canada right now on the panel. All right. I don't necessarily want to talk about it, but you know what? Do I want to talk about it? I feel like I promised someone I wasn't going to talk about it, but maybe I should talk about it. I don't know. Hold on. Okay, let's just watch this again. Watch where he stops. Okay. So process, go up the court. See, did you see the stop? Did you see this, that slight pause? Look at this. He didn't just keep going. He stopped. He slowed down. He slowed down to manipulate the defense because he saw Carton ahead of the play. So Carton is already ahead of his play. This defender that's between these two guys, and in transition is where you get those early baskets, right? So manipulating the defense this way, throwing the perfect pass, and good on DJ Carton, because I just accused him of not having guard skills. This was a phenomenal guard skill moment. Get the paint touch and pass to the open, really dead-eye corner shooter. But watch this again. Now, I clowned a certain other basketball creator for calling him Giannis. Let me make a hotter take than that. Giannis cannot make this pass at 18 years old. He would not have made this pass at 18 years old. I remember watching a lot of Giannis. Okay, wait. Let me walk that back. No. Yes, Giannis could have made this pass potentially at 18. This is very Giannis-like. I don't think he's going to be Giannis. I definitely still see him as more of a center prospect. But for him to be able to do this and to be able to hit threes, do you understand the insanity of this guy's upside? Like, what he could be is nuts. John NG saying, NBA Academy did wonders for his basketball IQ, probably better coaching than what Pascal got. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that. Alexander Lacazette saying, I'm pretty sure they're having an HR meeting on Monday to get rid of, let's just say, the Canadian. Yeah. What did Penn do? I'm not that Canadian, first of all. I also don't appreciate being called Canadian because I am a dual citizen, an American and a Canadian who was born in Yugoslavia. So I believe I wear all three identities very much. However, we will talk about that. You know what? Y'all gave me a little bit of confidence to talk about that. I will talk about that because honestly, it was very infuriating, and I didn't want to talk about it on the panel today because I'm not black and that's not really my beef. But I talked about it a lot privately. I was on this. I was taking a shower and my girlfriend heard me yelling. Like I was pissed off and I was like screaming. And she's like, "Are you on the phone? Like, what are you doing?" And I was just like, "No, I'm just venting my frustrations with what happened." So I do want to talk about it, and it's probably good to talk about it on a show like this where not as many people will watch it, right? So hang on one second. Let me just share this on my drive and then we'll do that and see if it comes up. Or no, screen recordings are in H.265. Thank you, Google Pixel. So this won't be able to show up. Okay, no worries. Raps and Six saying, "Don't worry, I'm black. I can give you insight." Okay, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you come up? You want to come up and talk about it? We can talk about it. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but let me know and I'll shoot you a link. We can talk about it after. Screaming in the shower is a very neurodivergent thing. Well, I am neurodivergent, so that would make sense. Now, I was just pissed. I don't do it too often. It's just I needed to I needed to think about what the fuck I was feeling in terms of there's layers. There's so many layers to that. Anyways, let's not talk about that right now. Let's talk about this. Okay. So to me, this play is insanity. The fact that he threw this, look at the trajectory of this pass. Did he throw it at DJ Carton? Nope. He led him into the pass. This is the type of play that Kelly Olynyk would make. This is the type of play where if Jakob Poeltl had the foot speed, he might have been able to make. But I can tell you, as someone who watched quite a bit of Jakob Poeltl at Utah, this was not a common occurrence for Jakob Poeltl either. So I do have to say that I think that this is phenomenal. And again, the bursts of potential from Ulrich Chomche have me very excited. So let's talk about where I would take these guys. All right. Oak Tree saying the Mahomes pass. Yes, sir. Passing is, in my opinion, just one of the most underrated skills. When we talk about bigs who can pass, we often do not give enough credit to that element of it. I often hear Wilt versus Kareem or Wilt versus Bill Russell, and we don't talk about Bill Russell's passing enough, right? We hear about Walton versus this guy. We talk about Arvydas Sabonis versus this guy. We just don't give enough credit to the playmaking angle of bigs because so often bigs are judged for their shot blocking. Well, in Ulrich Chomche, you not only have a big who has incredible shot blocking instincts. If you remember the two times that Khalil Ware got really open at the rim and dunked it up on everybody, Ulrich was not in the game. But when Ulrich was in the game, it was either a miss or a foul every time. And I think that speaks to his rim protection instincts. You know what would be a dream come true if the Raptors do sign Christian Koloko and they have Christian Koloko and Ulrich Chomche as a 5'4" backup? Can you imagine that? Okay, I'm not trying to kick Kelly off the team. I'm just saying, if Kelly Olynyk started, right? Just think about this team. Kelly Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl in the starting lineup as your 4-5. Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley. So now you have sufficient defense-ish, right? You have 4 defenders. So you're not starting Grady. And then off the bench, you get either one of Jamal Shed or Davion Mitchell, Sasha Vezenkov at the 3, Grady at the 2, maybe Jacoby Walter at 3, or one of those guys. Or maybe Sasha Vezenkov is just out of this. And then you get Ulrich Chomche at some point. Maybe it's 2 years down the line. Maybe he is 2 years away. I don't know. But this kid seems like a sponge. Seems like he wants to be good fast. At some point, can you imagine a backup 4-5 combo coming off the bench of Ulrich Chomche and Christian Koloko? I would love it. And I think, most importantly, I think Masai Ujiri would love it. That would be just beautiful, right? You have 2 players from Cameroon blocking up shots. I can see the t-shirts already. Cameroon block party. I don't know. Africa block party. I don't know what the hell you would call it, but it would be great. It would be fantastic. And it just so happens that both players are above average passers and both players have shooting potential. So I think that the upside on both players will be immense. But of course, Christian Koloko is 24. Ulrich Chomche is 18. Ulrich Chomche is way ahead of Christian at the same age. And I think Christian Koloko would acknowledge that if you talk to him. So this is really great. Etrick saying, Ochai shouldn't be on our team. He's not a man of consequence, man. You didn't give up very much to get him. He doesn't make a lot of money. And frankly, if he continues to play like this, you're not going to extend his contract. So it is what it is at this point. I'm also disappointed in Ochai Agbaji, but it is what it is, to borrow the platitude. So let's talk about where I would take these players based on what I've seen. Now, it's not just what I've seen from these guys. It's also based on what I've seen from guys who were drafted close to them. There's a good case to be made that maybe Kalel Ware has looked a lot better than people thought he would look. Does that mean he might go top 13, top 12, top 11? Does the team reach for him, right? It's possible. It's certainly possible, right? There goes my I said damn. Anab saying, I really want Koloko to return to the Raptors. So do I. That would be fantastic. He was one of my favorite players when he was on the team 2 years ago. So that would be just fantastic. I think his game has come a very long way. If he can get that year under his belt to just hone out the strength and conditioning part of it, he would be a wonderful addition. He's also a really fantastic locker room guy. He's very positive. He's always smiling. He's a really hard worker. So I think it would just be phenomenal to have that. And it's also a part of your roster that you sort of lack. Don't beat yourself up. Habits are hard to break. I agree. No, it's okay. So in terms of Jamal Shed, I still think he goes early second round. I think he's shown a lot of dog on defense. He's shown a nose for the ball. That was a pun. Hilarious. Yes. Hold on. Let's give myself a laugh track for that. 1 sec. Wait, what? No, we're going to give myself crickets for that because nobody else laughed. Okay. So, damn it. What? Okay. So, I think he still goes early second round. Jonathan Mobo probably still goes early second round. I wonder if Jacoby Walter, given what we have seen from someone like Terrence Shannon, I wonder if Jacoby Walter slips a little bit, maybe 21, 20, just on most boards. It might not be that the Raptors change their mind, especially given the Devin Carter fall and the injury, but it's possible. But Ulrich Chomche is a first-round pick now. After these 4 games, I know people aren't talking about him, and I'm actually shocked. I have a lot of friends who do draft content. I've been messaging them little clips of him saying, hey, give this guy a little bit of buzz, write an article about him. No one seems all that interested. So at this point, it is an army of 1. But hopefully, if y'all can join me, it'll be an army of 500 very soon, or maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000 Ulrich Chomche believers, if you will. I'm not pretending I was early to this. I wasn't overly thrilled on draft night. My take was that don't expect anything anytime soon. And there's a part of me that still understands that that is very much coherent. That's a fair point. He's not an NBA player right now. He's not one of the 500 best players in the world. He's not one of the 1,000 best players in the world. All that can be true. Is he one of the best under 20 prospects in the world right now, though? In terms of just raw upside, we're talking ceiling, because that is a really big part of how these guys are drafted. Nobody drafted Kwame Brown and Jermaine O'Neal and Eddie Curry for the players they were. They were drafted for the players they were going to be based on the sample size that we had seen. I just don't think Ulrich Chomche had a huge sample size. And so now the variance element of the swing on the upside element is very high with him, right? I think he's a first round pick. Now, where would I take him? where would he be on my big board right now? Now, I'm not someone who's shy about putting someone way higher on my board than he is on other people's boards. I'm not shy at all. I had Jordan Hawkins 5th on my board last year. Most people had him 15, 20. I had Dyson Daniels 5th on my board or 4th on my board the year he was 5th or 6th on my board. The year that he was drafted, I had Scotty number 2 on my board. So 2 or 3. So, or at least I had him number 1, but I thought the Raptors had him 3, in fairness. I had him 1-2 between him and Evan Mobley on my personal board. So I'm not afraid to put a guy way higher. Last year, I went crazy and I put Rayon Rupert at 13th, which in hindsight sounds absolutely ridiculous. And I'm definitely going to be wrong about that. I will push Ulrich Chomche as top 15 on my board after watching him play. Sounds crazy, but there just isn't enough upside in this draft for top 20. I would put him top 20. He's on par right now as a prospect, not as a player, but as a prospect for me as Jacoby Walter. He's right there. He is a lot of what I liked about someone like Yves Missi. A lot of that is coming through with him as well, except it's even a bigger player who's even younger. He's got the same humility and all the things that I really liked about Yves Missi, but he's a way better passer. And that element of it is like, man, if his hands are good, if his hands are good enough, right? Good enough to hang where he doesn't have stone hands and he's dropping passes all the time. I think that would be a really huge thing for me. If he could just get to that point where he can hold water offensively and just be connective, he would be a top 15 center in the NBA. No questions asked. I think the Raptors will ultimately regret, because to me, he is the highest upside of their 3 second-round picks, and yet he's the one without the guaranteed contract. If you knew what you had in him, which you clearly did because you paid $1 million to get him, which is very rare, right? We don't know he was going to get drafted at 57, 58, 59, or sorry, 57, 58. Wasn't even 60 picks in this draft. He was the second to last pick in this draft. What was stopping you from just signing him in the undrafted heap? It's not like Clutch is going to be anti-Toronto. Toronto's done a lot of favors for Clutch. Toronto also has a track record for correctly developing Cameroonian prospects. Clutch already represents Christian Koloko, so they clearly believed that this was worth $1 million. $1 million is chump change. NBA teams can spend up to, I think, $7 million and they can put out in cash every year. So you're going to spend this money anyways. But $1 million just to give that boost of, okay, first player drafted out of NBA Africa Academy feels crazy if this is not a player that you believe in. Yes, he does. He's a better shooter right now, and he is a better passer. He is not even close as a passer. So y'all remember how high I was on Yves Missi? He was top 11, 12 on my board. I think he was 9th or 10th, something like that. So he's there with me now. That's where I put him. I put him in that first category of players that included Yves Missi and Jacoby Walter. Again, athletic upside. We don't pretend that you know that he's not going to make it, and I can't pretend that I know that he will make it. What I can tell you is that he has a really good chance to make it, which is not something I can say about most of the second round picks in this draft. You wanted to hear his name and where he's from on draft night. Is that worth $1 million? Sure. I can understand that. That's a really big thing for NBA Africa Academy to be able to put that we got a guy drafted who was this raw. It's not the first. This is not the first. And it really does put some eyeballs. If he becomes successful, imagine every single time he is referenced or talked about, that will be on his bio. And given the fact that he is so humble and so gracious as a human being, from what I have gathered, from what I've listened to him, he's going to be talking about what the Academy did for him forever. It sort of reminds me of when Masai Ujiri said his success is my success in relation to Pascal Siakam, that how can he be successful and I not feel it? Feels very similar. Anyways, I don't want to get carried away, obviously. He is still extremely raw. He is still very new to basketball. he is still going to make a ton of mistakes that are going to make him absolutely unplayable as an NBA player right now. He is unplayable as an NBA player. But the raw potential, I'm treating him like a 16-year-old. I know that he's not 16. I know that he is 18, but he is incredibly young. His brain is 7 years away from being tapped out in terms of development. His personality is one of a sponge. So, yes. Do you think Mobo's potential higher than Precious? Yes. I like Jonathan Mobo a lot. I hate the idea that he's constantly compared to Precious Achiuwa because they both wear their hair in a ponytail. They are not similar players. Jonathan Mobo, had he played, I think there is a reason why the Raptors look so different with Mobo and Grady Dick out there, and they look so different without him, right? The Raptors have looked terrible the last 2 games. It's been really hard for them to generate offense, and it's because of how connected those 2 players are. They kind of seam everything together, right? Grady with his movement, some of his passing ability, they're both above average passers. And to be honest, you have a lot of players playing in their place who are not very good passers. And that's why Ulrich Chomche is sticking out so much as well, because he's playing with guys like Javon Freeman Liberty and DJ Carton, who are guards who do not possess the ability to make the right reads very often. Jamison Battle is not a great playmaker either. So you just have a lack of playmaking and a lack of rim protection, and you have one player who's 18 years old who's shoring up your 2 big glaring weaknesses. So to me, that was very interesting. I know this isn't super Raptors related, but quickly, what is your floor and ceiling for Jared McCain? I don't know. I'm sorry. I think he's a really great kid. I think the conversation about him has gotten so far away from actual basketball and just talking about his TikTok dances, his nail polish, and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know how to be objective or clear about him. I haven't watched enough of him in summer league. I watched enough of him in college to be able to say that I think he's going to be a really good guard in the NBA. Probably a backup though. Okay. We got to talk about this thing. Let's try to dog chill. Okay. Let me see if this video loads up. Okay, I got to talk about this. It's just a venting thing. It's going to be at the end of this live. Not a lot of people are going to see it, and I think that's going to be fine. Okay, this is it.
Oh, hey, no. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to be clear. I do not own this video or content. This is from the panel, from Player's Choice, and I'm just going to play a little bit of it. And I think that this is something that I just wanted to get off my chest. I realize that I'm not of the complexion necessarily to be the demographic that's supposed to be offended by this or whatever, but I was so pissed off about it, and I just need to get it off my chest. And maybe getting it off my chest will help me understand what I'm seeing right and wrong in the situation.
Matter of fact, Damo, deport Jalen. How about that?
Deport Jalen.
How about that? Get Jalen off the floor. Get your passport. I'm calling ICE on Jalen. How about that? Let's go.
I'm gonna call the same people that did the Emmett Till on you. No, I'm kidding.
All right, y'all.
He did just say that.
Jalen. All right.
Yes, he did just do that.
We got some super chat, so
I don't know what's worse, that or Mars yesterday. I ain't gonna hold you.
Don't compare me to that.
No, I am comparing you to that. I am comparing you to that. I am comparing you to that. I am comparing you to that.
Oh my
I
God.
am.
Do not compare me to.
Okay, so a couple things I want to get off my chest. First of all, as an American who came to Canada, I noticed Black history, especially American Black history, which is very distinct from Black history in general, is not really taught in Canada. I don't remember reading about Harriet Tubman or Martin Luther King in any of my textbooks. Read a lot about John A. MacDonald, right? Raps and Six saying, I couldn't hear what he said for real. Probably for the best. But I will diagram what happened in this situation. And to anyone who wants to scroll back and listen to it with headphones or whatever, you can hear it. What happened was following. the conversation and the context. Let me just lay out the context, and I want to get out of here at the hour mark. So hopefully this doesn't go well past 6 minutes, although it's a very heated subject and it's probably going to go well past 20 minutes. But I'm just going to try to get this off my chest. I'm going to try not to take too many shots at Jalen for this, even though I'm pretty pissed off of what he said. I'm trying to be fair. Maybe I'm not capable of being fair in this because it is just very triggering for me. But let me say it this way. The conversation was as follows. We were talking about Team USA, and Jalen, who is a Canadian, was born in Canada, but is of Sri Lankan origin, was asked about who he would take off Team USA. And the panel, some people on the panel, felt that maybe Jalen, being a Canadian and Team Canada being a pretty good team, might sabotage Team USA. So they didn't want him to speak on it, which I think personally is all right. It's not derogatory. It's a joke. We get over it, right? Chilltown, who is an OG and a really good basketball player back in his day and knows Shaquille O'Neal and all this cool stuff, right? But you must understand the context of who you're talking to sometimes when you're speaking. You do not get to talk to me about the Yugoslavian war because my family lived through it. I don't get to talk to Jalen about the Sri Lankan war because naturally his family lived through it. And you don't get to talk about Black history to guys like Chilltown because that's just messed up on so many levels. Bringing up Emmett Till in that moment in response to ICE. Now, clear as day, right? You do not get to gaslight. Now, I talked about this many times on this channel. Gaslighting annoys me to no end. And I went and I listened to Ox's Graveyard Shift where Jalen came on and listened to the panel, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the context of this was very simple. Deport him back to Canada. That's what ICE is. ICE is about immigration. It's not about racial anything. Okay? It's a deportation based on your citizenship status and your legal status in the country. Now, does ICE disproportionately impact brown people? Yeah, it does. It disproportionately impacts South Americans and Mexicans. Yes, it does. It doesn't impact Canadians as much, probably because I don't think as many Canadians are illegally crossing over the border. So yeah, there's some triggering element to that. But you don't get to be Spanish when it's convenient. You're not Spanish. You're Canadian. So ICE does not, at least as a Canadian, I could say that as an American Canadian, ICE doesn't have any triggering connotation to me. You could tell me you call ICE on me and I would laugh and say I'm an American citizen. That doesn't apply to me. So it was very clear that what Chilltown was saying was send this guy back to Canada, right? That's what the context was. Bringing up Emmett Till, and to anyone in the chat who's going to not know the context of this, Emmett Till was a young boy from Chicago who went down to the South, allegedly, according to some white people, hit on a white lady, and then proceeded to be castrated and lynched. He was a huge figure in terms of inspiring the civil rights movement. It is a very big source and a very big pain point for Black Americans in general. It is also a very big pain point for anyone who has empathy for the struggle that people have gone through, people of color have gone through. Because let's be honest, Emmett Till was not such a big deal because it was an isolated incident. There were many people who faced similar prejudice and continue, frankly, to face similar prejudice. It is an open wound. You don't get to tell someone that it should have closed. My issue with that is a complete false equivalence. Now, my first issue was that it was said, period. Emmett Till is a subject that, frankly, comedians don't even touch this. It is very off the table. You don't get to talk about it. And if you know anything about American history, and especially Black history, you would never even think it. Fuck saying it. You wouldn't even think to go there. It's not equivalent to being called Aladdin. It's not. Okay? So that was my first beef, that it was ever brought up. My second beef is that who you said it to. Because let's be real. The civil rights movement, everyone wants to act like it was 200 years ago. It was not. Talking to someone who's lived through American history, someone like Chilltown who's alive to see the 70s, is wild to me. You really have to be an absolute asshole to not understand how difficult things were following the civil rights movement. I don't just get to say, oh, well, Black people could vote and so things got easy. Things aren't easy today. So they definitely weren't easy in the 70s and 80s. So growing up from that era and having a lot of friends who had parents who grew up in that era, I heard a lot of horror stories about things that people went through, whites only fountains, things of this nature, which are very dehumanizing. And it's shocking to me that of all the people on that panel that you would bring it up to the guy who is clearly of that generation, where Emmett Till would have been an even bigger deal to him. I'm not saying it's not a big deal today. It's a very big deal today. You cannot bring it up to an 8-year-old black kid today, but to bring it up to a man in his 50s from America is fucking crazy. So that's my second thing. It's not just that you said it. Forget it. No, it's not just that you thought it. My first issue is that you even thought it. Number 2, my issue is that you said it. Number 3 is the issue of who you said it to. Number 4 is who you are. Now, if Jalen was black, if Jalen was American, it goes from being the stupidest thing I've ever heard to the second stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's bad, but somehow the fact that he's Canadian makes it worse, because you are speaking about the pain that you yourself do not have to deal with. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist in Canada, but you talk about Canadian racism, you talk about, it's a different story. You're not being lynched here. No offense. Okay. So this is not cool. So that's my 5th. Am I at 5? Am I at 5 things that piss me off so far? Because I'm about to get to 10 real quick. My 6th thing that pissed me off. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Am I on 5 or 6? My 6th thing. If I'm on 5, I'm going on 6. My 6th thing that pissed me off was that he came back and then apologized, but flippantly backhanded apologized. I don't like people who say, I'm sorry, but. It's just my big pet peeve. I do not like you saying, I'm sorry, but you were sensitive. He brought up a whole bunch of stuff about jokes that were made about him being Aladdin, or jokes that other backwards people. First of all, 2 wrongs do not make a right. If somebody offended you racially on racial terms, that is crass. It's stupid. And if you make racist jokes, you're an asshole, regardless of who you're offending. If you're offending Chinese people, white people, black people, whoever you're offending with your racist jokes, you're an asshole. But do not confuse racial jokes with racist jokes. There's a big difference. I was called Peja Stojakovic growing up a lot. I got called Manu Ginobili a lot. You know why? Look at my fucking face. Do I not look like those guys a little bit? Probably. I get called Eminem all the time. Every time I put on a hat and I go outside, people be like, oh, Slim Shady. Is that racist? No, it's not racist. It's racial. I'm being profiled as some guy who looks like another guy who kind of looks like me. But that's not racist. What is racist? What's racist about calling me Eminem? It's not racist. It's stupid. It's stupid as hell, but it's not racist. Racism implies a power dynamic. It implies an imposition or a suggestion that one race is superior to another race, which is completely not what calling somebody Manu Ginobili, Aladdin, or Eminem. By the way, not that I suggest you ever do it, but if you ever made a grape soda joke to an African American, that's also not racist. It's racial, it's stupid, it's ignorant, but it's not racist. It's not racist. Bringing up Emmett Till is racist. So there's why I have a big issue with the false equivalence of what was said there. Doubling down and saying, yo, I'm sorry, but everything that's been said to me, I don't take offense to it. Y'all are sensitive. And then alluding to the fact that in certain circles, this joke would work is total fucking cap. There's not one person I know. I'm going to tell you this right now. If I personally, as looking like myself, went to, I don't know, East LA and said this joke with a speaker, I would get shot so fast. And by the way, the worst part about it is I would expect to get shot and would completely be okay with it, because that is exactly what should have happened to me if I did that. And it was so stupid. If I dare you to say this fucking joke in Compton in person, you would be killed for saying something like this. So the idea of acting like it's not a big deal because your dumbass buddies are cool with it makes everybody look stupid. It makes Canadians look dumb. And so as a Canadian, also as a new Canadian, someone who's been living here for 20 years, I was like, yo, bro, what are you representing here? There's not one Canadian person. I had a lot of black friends. Now I would never feel okay. I would never feel okay with them hearing something so stupid. The idea that you would say this, even if they don't necessarily identify with the Emmett Till character and person as a pain point. It wasn't their history, because that's another thing that you got to realize. African American history is not Black history. It's a part of Black history, just like African history is a part of Black history. Jamaican history is a part of Black history. Sometimes Cuban history is a part of Black history. Canadian Black people are a part of Black history. But African American, especially South history, is specific to the region. It's very specific to the region. The pain, the tribulations, the trials, the struggles are very specific to that region. You don't get to talk about it. You just don't. You don't get to talk on it. You can talk about it, hopefully, but you don't get to talk on it and gaslight other people and say they're sensitive because they have an issue with it, because it is something to be sensitive about, is what I'm saying. Rapson 6 saying, which panel episode was it? They clipped it out. But it is, I believe, on Wednesday. It was a Wednesday episode. So going down the list of things that I'm still pissed about, doubling down about it, tripling down about it, quadrupling down about it, and then gaslighting other people and saying, yeah, but this thing happened to me. Y'all are just sensitive. This to me was crazy. Let me continue. Now, Big Ox, which is the gentleman y'all see on the far left, really great dude. Shout outs to Ox, and you know, he's a really interesting content creator. He has a channel called Big Ox Media. Definitely go give Big Ox Media a like or follow or subscribe. He does something called the Graveyard Shift, which I think is just phenomenal. It's really smart, right? So he had the presence of mind to host a live, which you're free to go watch and make the assumptions for yourself that I'm making a point here. I'm making content about content about content. I realize that, but what Ox did was he opened the space for Jalen to talk. And I like the fact that he did that. But he opened it up talking about the Sri Lankan war and the genocide in Sri Lanka. Now, I am not Sri Lankan. I had a couple of friends who were Sri Lankan, but I cannot tell you I had a lot of close friends who were Sri Lankan. So this is something I had to learn about as someone who lives in a city with a lot of Sri Lankan people, because I don't want to be ignorant and stupid. And I want to understand what happened. So the numbers are haunting in terms of the struggles and the war and the civil war that happened there. And I don't pretend to be an expert on it. I cannot speak on it because that was not my history. So I'm not going to tell someone, grow up, get over it. No. As a person who was born in Yugoslavia, we had a civil war as well. We had a war that happened with NATO. A lot of people were lost. A lot of people lost their lives. I'm very sympathetic to people who have their countries torn apart this way. It is not, however, equivalent to Black history. You cannot compare it to African American history. You cannot compare those two things. What I found infuriating was the framing of this, unfortunately, by Ox, where he was trying to be empathetic to a friend by framing it as, hey, talking about deporting somebody who comes from this country could be as triggering as telling somebody that they could be lynched. This is the most infuriating part of this entire equation. Because now you have now thrown the racist tag that you should be holding on yourself. And I'm not suggesting Jalen is racist. Please understand what he did, in my opinion, was very racial and racist. In my opinion, what he did was racist. But I don't know him. So I can't tell you that he is or he isn't. I don't know him. Don't know him. And I'm not going to make a case that he is or not. I don't really care. What I'm commenting on is what I've seen. And what I saw was a framing by him of being the victim in the situation. That because Chill said, I'm going to deport you, his mind went to Emmett Till. He said, my mind was already in a racial place. Hold up. It is not racist to tell a non-American that you will be deported back to Canada for your basketball take. That's not racist. And he never said deport him back to Sri Lanka. So this is completely fucked up. And the whole conversation became about Sri Lankan history and all this stuff. And I was very pissed about listening to that. So that is, I think, my 7th issue so far, is the fact that that take even got off. And now suddenly it looks like Chill is the guy who started it. He is not. He is not the guy who started it. He's a very nice dude. And frankly, I don't appreciate him getting put on blast for something that happened to him. That's the worst part of this. There's one person who is a victim in this entire situation, and that is Chilltown. Now, you're making him the racist? Yo, are you fucking crazy? What are we talking about? That just drove me crazy. So, okay, that's Let me get to the 8th thing that bothered me about the situation. And this is why I was screaming in the fucking shower, because I couldn't believe how many layers there were to this annoying situation. The 8th thing that pissed me off about it was that, now I'm not going to talk about the tweets that were uncovered with the N-word. I don't know about that. I didn't verify that. Allegedly. Now that's beyond my scope, because once I got to point 8, I was done with the situation. I don't want to think any more about it, because I'm just going to get madder when I say this. Okay. This woman comes up. Her name is Anastasia. I believe A was her name. She is, according to her, she is African American or Black. She came on to a panel which included 8 Black men and Jalen on defense and her, and went at all Black men as being bandits. She called them bandits. And her implication was that Black men are soft, that Black men are weak, that Black men get easily triggered, that they're overreactionary, that they should just get over it. I know women like this. I've heard women like this, and they frankly make me sick. What pissed me off the most, what pissed me off the absolute most, is go back and watch Jalen while she's talking. You, my friend, are on trial for something you did that was deemed racist by a largely Black community. This is your moment. This is your moment. Right now is your moment to slap back and say, hey, I know a lot of people, this is not the case about them. She came on to defend him. She said, Jalen, stand on your business, do what you're doing. And he's just sitting there like this. And to me, my point is this. If at that point Jalen did not know what he had done is wrong, the fact that this woman is supporting what you're doing is crazy. That should be the click for you. Yep. Why do I care? What does it mean then to me? Look at my complexion. White privilege. Yeah, that's the privilege, right? That's the white privilege. You get to be outraged about everybody, right? Look, man. I want to say this, and I hope that no one takes this the wrong way. Culture is a very important thing in terms of shaping your understanding of who you are in a general context. If I were to draw 100, let's say I was to rank out the 100 most important people in the history of my life, I'm willing to bet 85% of them are either Black or Serbian or some sort of Eastern European. And that's just my reality. That's where you grow up. That's who you come up with. I have a lot of friends from Serbia. They come over here. When you see who their best friends are, almost all of them are Black. Guess what? We are the other, right? In the United States, when we immigrated, I didn't speak English. To me, I was the other. I got picked on for being the other. I got picked on for how I spoke English. Every word I did not understand. I remember to this day at age 7, not knowing what the word butler meant, because I didn't know what a butler was, and people making fun of me for it. So obviously, you're going to gravitate towards people who are also identifying as the other. And so that is my experience. I found the other immigrants, I found the other Black kids, and those were my friends. Now, it's wild to me that because I did learn how to speak English, that now I get to be the John Smith of the world and everyone's telling me this and that. But I've experienced it on both sides. I've had basketballs thrown at my head for being the only white player on a Black basketball team because someone didn't like me and I took someone's spot. I've had that happen to me. I understood it. I didn't like it. It felt very bad. I've also watched a lot of my Black friends go through this. I gave this example to my girlfriend the other day, and I wanted to share this with y'all right now to give you an idea that this is also in Canada. I had a friend when I was 16 years old. When I moved here, I was 14, 15, right? 14, 13, 14, around there. I had a friend, and we used to do this thing, and this might be, what's the statute of limitations in Canada? This is like committing. I was 15 years old, so you can't arrest me for this, but this is 100% true. We had a Dollarama close to our school. And what we would do is we knew that the security guard was, for whatever reason, he was, I think, an Indian guy or a Sri Lankan guy or whatever, but he absolutely racially profiled against Black kids. I don't know if it's because his boss told him to do it. I don't know if it was the area we were living in, but he absolutely tended to pay way more attention to black kids coming into his store than any other kids. And so my boy and I, we would do this thing where we would play it against him. So my friend would go in with a really big bag and look as suspicious as hell, just to draw all the attention onto himself. He'd be like looking at a chocolate bar like this, looking around like this. He has his big ass backpack on, big ass hoodie, big ass sweatshirt, and he's just bait. And there I am in the other aisle, just putting everything into my backpack. And then we get out of the store, we go to the Harveys, and we split it. And that is how it's done. Nobody ever caught me. Well, until they did catch me when I was 16 years old. That's Walmart. But no one at Dollarama ever caught me shoplifting as a kid, because the attention was on him. And that is a microcosm of how race and racism and racial profiling do work. Oak Tree saying I used to run the same game. Yeah, exactly. So look, man, when I'm in a room full of John Smiths and Jacobs, McMillans, they're not looking at me like I'm one of them. Absolutely not. I don't sound like them. I don't look like them. And they're looking at me like the other. If their daughter married me, trust me, there'd be a talk. If they had an issue, there would be a talk. This Eastern European, whatever, dark skin, dark hair, whatever. I get it. And I accept that. But I'll never compare anything that I have even remotely experienced to the level of how bad it was in the 50s and 60s for African Americans. That is crazy. I can never compare some moment of someone throwing a basketball at my head for being white. I can never compare that to someone getting castrated because of the color of their skin. To this day, when you look at the historical oppression and suppression of Black people in America, you will notice the highest earning demographic in the United States is Jewish Americans, followed by Indian Americans. The left has you guys absolutely lost, because they make everything into black and white, brown and white, color versus non-color. No, that is not true, in my opinion. It is culture and it is systemic. Okay? There's a reason why Indian Americans out-earn Mexican Americans. You know why? Look at how immigration works. Look at who is immigrating. If I was to take, let's just say, for instance, there's no Estonians in Canada. Let me just put it out there. Let's say there's 0 Estonians in Canada. Let's say we get all the Estonians out of Canada. If you're Estonian, hang with me. This gets better. And let's say I now go to Estonia and I poach their top scientists, their top engineers, their top skilled trade workers, and I do a draft and I take the 2,000 best Estonians on the basis of whatever. 3 generations from now, whatever those 2,000 people become in terms of a family will be out earning the average Canadian by far, because I'm literally poaching the most educated people from a particular demographic. And it just so happens that China and India have a lot of people. They are very, very large countries with large disparities. You're not poaching, you're not taking refugees from these countries. And so when you take refugees from Serbia and you take scientists from India, you don't get to compare apples and apples. You're not comparing apples and apples, right? I think African Americans are at the biggest disadvantage in terms of because of where the system of racism has stemmed from. Black schools, Black cities, Black neighborhoods, etc., have come down from underfunding from one regime to another regime to another regime. And it does not surprise me at all that African Americans are at the very bottom of that list. That is just one of the thousands of reasons why you should be extremely, extremely mindful when talking about this stuff. So, I got it off my chest. I talked about something that frankly has nothing to do with me. I wasn't on the panel. I'm not Black. But it bothered me. And maybe that's something I need to explore. Why did it bother me so much? Why did it piss me off so much? Because I don't think it would have bothered me as much if it wasn't that subject, if it wasn't chill, right? There's a lot of things about it that pissed me off. Maybe it was the gaslighting part of it. Maybe it was the doubling down on the apology. Maybe it was the nodding along as that woman talked bullshit. Maybe it's the combination of all of it. Maybe it's the apology and the lack of sincerity, in my opinion. Maybe it's the doubling down. I don't know what it is, but that entire situation pissed me off. Facts. You know what? That's the thing. You just gotta, when you're wrong, and this is just a parting note for this live, when you are wrong, just say, I'm sorry. I messed up. I apologize. That's it. There's no context required. There's nothing else. The only thing that is required is that you do not repeat the shitty behavior that you just did. That's it. That's your only requirement, right? So I don't necessarily think that that's the thing that was everything. Maybe if it had just stopped there and I didn't see the thing on Ox's channel, I wouldn't have been as mad. Maybe. But I think I don't know. The Pascal Siakam thing got to me too. Right? Like people coming at him in the bubble. That was very extremely infuriating. So, anyways, I hope one day I have empathy that I can be as bothered by this happening to anybody. Because I was very bothered, on a train at the height of the pandemic, when this very racist white couple got onto the train and started screaming at a random Asian woman and saying that she was the reason that our country was shutting down. Yes, that made me very upset, and I got very upset, and I got up and I got in their faces, and they nearly threw something at me. But in general, I would like to live in a world where this does not exist. I would like to think that my children will grow up in a world where they will not be profiled, that they will not be profiling other people, and then we just get past this because this is so stupid. It's so stupid. It's inconsequential, right? It's so dumb. Dang, on the TTC. Yes, on the TTC. It was on a train. So, look, I'm going to say this, and this is me urging people who have a platform or have the privilege to have a platform. Do not be a white savior. Listen as much as you can. I'm going to listen more than I'm going to talk in a situation where I am trying to listen to somebody explain their issue, right? I'm not experiencing it. I'm going to tell you this. When I was 16 or 17 years old, I had a very controversial relationship with cops, partially because I did a lot of criminal shit before I was 16 years old. So maybe every time I thought I was seeing a cop, I was seeing something bad, and maybe people around me didn't like cops. But right now, I go up to a cop and feel no fear, zero fear. I have zero fear. I remember we were running frat parties and whatever, and the cops would come because of noise complaints. I'd be like, yeah, I'll talk to them, no problem. I never felt like I would open the door and get shot. Never, not once. That is privilege. That is a heavy privilege, and you must acknowledge that if you're going to even have these conversations. But what I will say is that if you witness somebody doing this to somebody, if you witness some crazy person screaming, I don't care. And I don't even believe in this whole thing about white people are the only people that can commit racism against other people. No, absolutely not. I have heard a lot of people from the Middle East talking about Chinese people or Chinese people. Look, the concept that I want to just emphasize here is racial is not racist. Racism requires a power dynamic. It does require a power dynamic, and power dynamics are different based on the situation you're in. Let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question. If I go to a Middle Eastern country and get shot for being white, is that racist? Yeah, it is, right? If I went to a country that hated Serbs and got shot for being a Serb, if I got shot for being an American, that would not be racist, right? Because that's not racial. But if I got shot for being white, that would be racist, right? When you prejudge somebody based on the color of their skin, and you are in a position of power to do something horrible to them, and that includes stopping somebody because they fit a description and because you can. That includes finding someone more guilty in the legal system, finding someone more guilty because you have a prejudice that a certain demographic or a certain race is more predisposed to violent crime or whatever. These are things that we need to talk about and probably need to keep talking about as a society, as a community, and whatever. We need to keep having these conversations so that hopefully people can get better. But what I think that needs to happen unquestionably is that when you see something like this happening, make sure to say something about it. If nothing else, the person who is being targeted by this ugly ass behavior is going to feel a little bit more seen and a little bit more supported, because I know that Chill put on a brave face and he's a big dude and he is I have a lot of admiration for him prior to the panel. I've listened to this guy for years. So it's very cool to be on a show with him. In fact, Chilltown is one of the biggest reasons I'm even on the panel, because when Shaq approached me about being on the panel, my first thought was, I'm so excited to be on the same panel as Chill. I've listened to Chill on Pick a Side podcast. I've listened to Chill on Chilltown Hoops on his channel. I love the guy. So to me, he put on a really brave face, but to me, it was very important today on the panel to just make sure that I had his back and just let him know that, hey, I saw what happened and I don't support this. Even this message right now is for me to just emphasize how firmly I am on his side in this situation. And he's not even making a big stink out of it. I don't know if he made some content about it or whatever, but I'm just saying, to do something like that to somebody and then turn around and act like they did it to you first when they didn't, to me, is the height of toxicity. I got over it. I'm gonna just need to shut up about this at this point, because I'm gonna go on for 15 hours, and this live will be going on until tomorrow at 5 p.m. if I don't shut up. So thank you so much to everybody who tuned in at 3:53 in the morning. I appreciate y'all for letting me get this off my chest. But this was a very infuriating situation, and I hope that things like this don't continue to happen. Naturally, this is being dealt with behind the scenes. I really do appreciate the way Players' Choice is dealing with this, the way David and Shaq are dealing with this behind the scenes, where they're looking at it like, hey, if you want to watch their community post, they had a community post about how they've made mistakes and they don't believe in cancel culture. And I appreciate that. I get that. I don't believe in rage mobbing either. What I believe in is articulating and dissecting a situation like this and saying, how can we do better as a society to make sure this type of shit doesn't happen on the panel, doesn't happen on Pensar basketball, doesn't happen on anything. If y'all remember, there was an Indiana Pacers fan who came on and said the N-word on this channel, and I damn near lost my mind. I think I did an entire live about how upset I was about what happened with Chris Boucher, right? So this has been something, right? Anytime Russell Westbrook is freaking out at some fans, right, saying some negative shit to him. I've been at NBA games in the 90s and heard the N-word used at an NBA game. At that moment, it is very important for the people in that section to turn around and tell that person to shut the hell up before the player has to tell. The player should not be isolated in that situation. So I think that it is on all of us to be better, to have these conversations, but ultimately, when you see something egregious and crazy happening to somebody, don't make them feel like they're alone in that. Have their back. All right. Okay. Someone said us black people are racist too, not me though. It's perfectly possible to be racist, regardless of where you're from. Racism is a power issue. If you are in a room full of 500 black people, then in that room, you have power, right? Just like if you are an African American and you're in a police station, the police have power, right? So the power dynamic changes based on where you are, right? When you go to Serbia, Serbs have power. You go to Albania, Albanians have power, right? Albanian authorities. So the Albanian authorities can absolutely arrest you because they don't like Serbian people, and they can treat you very unfairly because they don't like Serbian people, the same way Serbs can do that to Albanians. In either case, the context changes based on where you are, right? Right. If an Australian person goes to Rwanda and gets shot for being white, that would be a hate crime, right? So I don't believe in this notion of like, oh, minorities can't be racist. I've heard plenty of racist shit from Indian people talking about black people, right? I've seen it myself. I have absolutely seen it. I remember we were at an Egyptian Coptic church once, and they stopped service because one of my friend's black friends came into the church. Stopped service straight up, and they just started looking at him real funny. Egyptians are not white, last I checked. So, it happens. So this is not a purely white problem. This is not a purely black and white problem. This is an everybody problem. This is a human problem. We need to solve it as human beings. All right, hour and a half. What's the HR meeting about on Monday? Don't know. Not invited. All right. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one and hit like on this video on your way out.